Hello and welcome to my WWE Clash of Champions 2020 full show review. Apologies for it being a little later than I would normally upload my review, but just there's a lot of stuff going on around the time. I didn't watch the show until last night, starting at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, my time, which is, 12 hours after the show finished or so. So yesterday, the upload just wasn't happening, basically. But no matter. I haven't watched Raw, by the way. I know a thing that happened, but, I'm not going to be taking Raw into account in this review. I'm just going to talk about the show itself. So, I'm going to start with the kickoff show, which the match on the kickoff was changed. We'll talk about that later when we talk about the match that was supposed to be on the kickoff show. But the kickoff show had Cesaro and Nakamura defending their SmackDown Tag Team Championships against Kalisto and Lince Dorado of the Lucha House Party. Cesaro, it was a good tag match. It was good. It was back and forth, high flying where it needed to be. The heels dominated for a bit, all that good stuff. I do have one minor complaint. We'll talk about the finish first, which is that I think it was Nakamura pinned Kalisto after the swing into Kinshasa combination. My problem was the whole story with Lucha House Party at the moment is the descent between Kalisto and Lince Dorado, and there was none. They actually showed good teamwork, but then still lost. Like, they either needed to show good teamwork and win, or they needed to lose because of some miscommunication or other. Now, granted, Kalisto can be like, where were you, because Lince got, I think, chucked over the barricade at ringside before the finish. So, they can build on that, but I feel like a little bit of a miscommunication would have been welcome in this match. Nonetheless, it was a decent match. Oh, by the way, I also didn't do predictions for this. It's just been manic recently for me. Bad time management plus busy times in general has equaled not as much content as I'd like. So there's not been predictions, so I can't discuss whether or not I predicted things correctly. And it's easy for me to say after the event, oh yeah, I saw this coming. But yeah, so I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to talk about how the show went in general. Yeah, I feel like they missed a trick there, telling one story or the other, which is when they're on the same page, they can win, or they can't win because they're not on the same page. They kind of didn't tell either story. They were on the same page, but still lost, and maybe they're going to tell the story of, oh, well, I don't see the merit in being in a team because we can't win even when we're working together well. I don't know, it just feels a bit like, missed a beat there. Anyway, on to the main show, which kicked off, and rightly so in my opinion. Good match to kick the show off with Sami Zayn, Jeff Hardy, and AJ Styles fighting over the Intercontinental Championships. So this was a fun match. It had a couple of high spots, but it was a little bit less high spot heavy than a lot of multi-man ladder matches can be, which I appreciated. Most of the big spots were honestly people being thrown at ladders, like suplexes onto a ladder in the corner and stuff like that, rather than huge bumps off ladders. Jeff Hardy obviously did a swanton off the ladder through Sami Zayn, who was on the ladder bridge between the apron and the announce table. That was a big spot, but you expect at least one of them from Jeff, don't you? But yeah, there was a bit more... I feel like there was a bit more psychology and storytelling behind this ladder match than you quite often get in ladder matches, which I appreciated. Slightly slower pace as well. There was one big spot that unfortunately seems to have gone wrong, and I'd love to have seen what they had in mind. I'd love for it to have gone right because it was a really interesting spot. So you had Jeff on the ladder. Sami Zayn then lifted it up from the opposite side to where Jeff was, so tilting Jeff backwards. And Jeff started walking over the ladder and walking down the other side of the ladder, like hands and head first, towards Sami Zayn. Now, it looked like they were aiming to get Jeff Hardy onto the top rope eventually. Like, his feet were looking like they were going towards the top turnbuckle. Either that or he was going to crawl all the way along and somehow get a grip on Sami Zayn and do a move. I don't know, one or the other. Unfortunately, that spot went wrong, and Jeff Hardy took one hell of a tumble out the ring, tied up with a ladder. Like, the ladder fell over the top rope with him. And I was like, anything could have happened there. He could have got smacked in the face. He could have got concussed. He could have got a broken arm because his arm was tied up in amongst the ladder. Could have got a broken leg. Like, it was there was no way that was the planned spot because that looked dangerous. He was very lucky to get away without, as far as I'm aware, any sort of serious injury from that. He continued the match. He did the big swanton after that, so I assume he was okay. But he was lucky to be. He could have had anything, you know, because it was just a chaos fall. Like, you didn't know what part of ladder was going to hit what part of Jeff. I just don't think that was the planned spot. I really want to know what the planned spot was because it was a really intriguing spot until it went wrong. Speaking of intriguing spots, the finish, genius. I'm sorry, the finish was fantastic. So Sami Zayn, after a lot of match, went into his jacket that magically appeared on the announce table and found 2 pairs of handcuffs that he'd brought out with him in his pockets. He ear cuffed Jeff Hardy to a ladder. He put it through the stretcher in Jeff Hardy's ear, which is the second time we've seen the stretch come into effect. If you remember the Hell in a Cell match with Randy Orton and the screwdriver a couple of years ago. But this was really innovative. He put the handcuff through the stretcher, and then the other end of the handcuff to the ladder, to a ladder outside the ring. So Jeff was like attached to a ladder by his face, by his ear, by his earlobe, which was amazing. And then Sami Zayn went to try and handcuff AJ Styles to the bottom rope so he could climb up unopposed, but AJ fought him off, and then just as AJ was going for a move, was it a Styles Clash? I can't remember what move it was, but he went for a move and Sami Zayn handcuffed himself to the other end of the handcuffs, so AJ couldn't climb the ladder because he had Sami as a dead weight. So in the end, AJ... Oh, can I just talk about... There was an amazing spot that it was unlucky it missed where... I can't remember who it was. I can't remember who was involved, but someone threw a ladder at someone else as they were climbing, and it was great. And it missed, and they reached the hand out, and they had to sell the hand because that was all it hit. But I think it might have been Sami that got hit. And AJ that threw it, I think. I'm not sure. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. But, yeah, that was fun. But anyway, getting back to the finish. So, yeah, in the end, AJ had to pick Sami Zayn up in a fireman's carry and climb the ladder with him on him. Then Jeff Hardy eventually managed to find a way to get himself and the ladder that was still attached to his ear back into the ring. And started distracting AJ by fighting him. Sami Zayn then... climbed around. I can't remember exactly what Jeff Hardy was doing, but Sami Zayn climbed around and dragged AJ's arm through the rungs of the ladder and handcuffed him to the support beam. You know, the horizontal beams that go between the 2 diagonals of the ladder to sort of strengthen it. Handcuffed him to one of those, so he was stuck through the rungs of the ladder, his arm through, so he couldn't climb up anymore. And then Sami Zayn climbed up and won. And it was a brilliant ending. It was genuinely, I thought it was really innovative, really creative. Made sense for Sami's character to take a shortcut like that, to come in with a plan like that and to beat them slightly unfairly. And I will say the result was surprising because the WWE formula stated that Jeff Hardy should have won because Sami Zayn won the triple threat on SmackDown and then AJ Styles climbed the ladder and retrieved the belts. So both of those were eliminated from any chance of winning because they both kind of came out on top on SmackDown. You could argue that AJ Styles was the one who came out on top and touched the titles, which is just the absolute curse. But I didn't expect Sami to win either because he won the triple threat. So I thought, oh, well, that's both of them eliminated. So Hardy was going to win in my mind. But... no, Sami Zayn picked up the win. I'm happy with that. I think it was a good surprise. I don't think it was one of those where I'm like, oh, that made no sense. Why have they booked that? You know, any one of these could have won and it would have made sense. But the finish was just brilliant. It was genuinely such a good idea. Whoever came up with that, give them a pay rise. Whether it was Sami, Jeff, AJ, one of the road agents, Vince McMahon, Bruce Pritchard, I don't care. Give whoever came up with that a pay rise. That was fantastic. Then after that match, we had a segment. So on the kickoff show, R-Truth was dressed as a prospector, because obviously the subtitle for Clash of Champions was Gold Rush, and he's got a pan with his title in. You know, like they used to pan for gold. They used to put the gold in a pan of water and sift it out or something. I don't know. But I got the reference. I don't know my Gold Rush history that well, but I got the reference. So anyway, he's still creeping around dressed as this prospector with like a grey long hair wig and a beard that doesn't fit on his face properly, and what have you. And he crept into the referee's locker room. So apparently they have their own like referees room where they hang out when they're not refereeing matches. And Truth crept in and was like, "My bad," and it sort of got suspicious because he's like, "I don't need to see referees because I've got the 24/7 title." And he backs out. One of the referees, I think it was Super Tan Ref, followed him out like, "Are you okay, R-Truth? Do you need something?" Concerned for his mental well-being, which it's about time someone showed some concern for R-Truth, to be honest. But then Drew Gulak is just lunging down the hallway in the background. I'm sorry, this was a stupid thing, but it made me chuckle. It was such a good, stupid... R-Truth does stupid humour better than anyone, and Drew Gulak played his part brilliantly. He was just lunging around the hallway, apparently, just endlessly, just like, well, I haven't got a match, but I'm in my gear, and I'll just lunge about. Always prepared, So Gulak spots R-Truth and schoolboys him, and the referee that was showing concern for R-Truth counts it, and Drew Gulak's the 24/7 champion. So, I was going to say, so that's the first title change of the match of the night. Technically, Sami Zayn both retained and won the Intercontinental title. They've been acknowledging Jeff Hardy as the official Intercontinental champion, and Sami Zayn's been unhappy about that. So I suppose that was a title change, technically, in the history books. The promo afterwards, by the way, that I just skipped over, sorry about that, with Sami Zayn, being interviewed and them saying, you've regained, and he went, "I didn't regain anything. I've held on to my." I just love this Sami Zayn. I love heel Sami Zayn so much. Really good. But yeah, then the first definite change, clear-cut title change of the night was the 24/7 title. Drew Gulak picking it up over R-Truth. Next match was the match with, was it the least chance of a title change? I mean, it was one of them. It was one of the two where there was absolutely no chance of a title change. So, yeah, Asuka defending the Raw Women's Championship against Zelina Vega. Now, this is the match that was announced for the kickoff show and then was moved. Now, some people were complaining about this. And while as an Asuka fan, a big Asuka fan, I understand where they were coming from. Asuka deserves better and yada yada yada. She's defending the title against Zelina Vega in one of Zelina's first matches in front of this audience, in front of the main roster audience. The main roster audience only know her as a manager. The WWE audience pretty much only know her as a manager, even if you follow NXT. I can't remember seeing her in many full matches, if any, before this last few weeks. So Vega just declared herself number one contender out of nowhere. There's been about 2 weeks of build. No, I'm sorry, this is a kickoff show match. And I get people want the women to be treated fairly. Well, I'm sorry, if you've got the least build and the least interesting story, you go on the kickoff show, and that is treating them equally, whether you're male or female. And to be honest, the fact that the women got moved onto the main show just because the other two women's title matches got cancelled, doesn't sit well with me, because that is, you're on the main show because you are women, as opposed to because your match deserves it. And I just want to see this sort of this glad handing end. I just want them to be treated equally. I want Bayley and Sasha Banks to main event WrestleMania next year because they deserve it, because they have the most interesting story in WWE and they can easily steal the show with the match of the night. We've seen that in NXT between the two, so we know they're capable of it. That's why I want them to be main eventing WrestleMania, not because they're women, which is kind of the feeling we got of why the women main evented WrestleMania last time. Ronda Rousey, huge star. Charlotte, within WWE, huge star. Becky Lynch, over as anything, mega star. But their build wasn't the best. I didn't enjoy their build. And I wouldn't personally have put that as main event. But they got put there because that was the culmination of the couple of years of, we're doing this because they're women, we're doing this because they're women, we're doing this. Hell in a Cell, Money in the Bank, Elimination Chamber, Royal Rumble. They introduced all these things. First ever pay-per-view main event. First ever women's only pay-per-view. And it was all just glad-handing. Look how well we treat the women now. And all I want from WWE is them to stop doing that and just be like, hey, they've got as good a chance as anyone. Like, that's all I want. They main event the shows they deserve to main event. And that's what's been happening recently, by the way. Bayley and Sasha Banks have been main eventing Raws and SmackDowns and even NXTs. I can't even count how many. And that's because they're the best characters. They're the most interesting characters. They've got the best story. you know, they deserved it, basically. That's why they were in those situations, in those positions. And I like that. That's what I want. But to bump these two to the main card just because the other two women's title matches got bumped off the card, presumably due to COVID. What? Like, I don't agree with that. Especially because of what came later. We still had a SmackDown Women's Championship match, so it was needless. I just think this match wasn't worthy of main card in terms of its build and its interest, quite frankly. No one believes in Zelina Vega was going to beat Asuka. And no one even understood why she got a title shot. She just came out and said, hey, I'm having the next title shot, and everyone was okay with that. This woman who hadn't wrestled at that point had just managed people. Like, surely someone could have come out and gone, hang on a minute. And I know, didn't she beat Mickie James the following week to officially earn it, but... And who believes that anyway? Zelina Vega beating Mickie James. Anyway, whatever. Moving on to the actual match, rant over. The match was not great, in all honesty. It was okay. It was passable, but it wasn't one of Asuka's better matches by any stretch. I feel like these two didn't click great, if I'm being honest. Maybe I was watching this match through slightly negative tinted glasses, you know, like the opposite of rose tinted glasses, whatever the opposite expression would be, because I was like, I don't agree with this being bumped onto the main card, but I just don't think the match was that great. The finish sequence, though, credit where it's due, was pretty good. We had a roll-up into a new roll-up with a bridge, and then Asuka kind of kicked Zelina Vega through and caught her into the Asuka lock. It was nice. That end sequence was really well executed. That was nice. You know, I do believe in giving credit where it's due. Yeah, no problem with the finish there. After the match, Asuka cut a promo that was basically kind of rubbing it in Zelina's face that she wasn't ready for Asuka, but then offered a handshake, which is probably just a language barrier thing more than anything. She doesn't know how to cut a more nuanced promo in English. You know, her Japanese promo skills could be fantastic. I wouldn't know. But in English, she's still fairly limited. She speaks way better English than I speak Japanese. I'm not trying to disrespect her with this, but she's not going to cut a CM Punk pipe bomb. She's not going to cut a Jake the Snake Roberts promo. She's not going to... you know, I mean... WWF Jake the Snake Roberts, not AEW Jake the Snake. You know, she's not. But to give the AEW credit, she's not going to cut a Taz promo. You know, she's limited with her English, and so I think that's why that promo came out as it did. I don't think it was meant to seem personal. But then anyway, so she offered the handshake. Zelina Vega was like, no, and bowed to her, and you know, to show respect and what have you. And then when Asuka bowed, then Zelina took a cheap shot and blah blah blah. I believe they had a rematch on Raw, but I don't know the result, so that's why I said I'm not going to really discuss Raw. That's not the one thing I know. I mean, results-wise, I know one thing. But, yeah, I believe they were due to have a rematch. So hopefully this feud isn't going to carry on to Hell in a Cell. Hopefully they're going to find a new challenger for Asuka, because I don't think Zelina's there at the moment. I think she's too long out of practice. You know, she's probably training. She's probably having matches in the Performance Center. But they're sort of walkthrough matches, aren't they? You know, like, I feel like it's different doing it at full pace, full throttle. And she's just not ready as a character yet for that kind of push, in my opinion. Anyway, next match. Bobby Lashley defending the United States Championship against Apollo Crews. Another feud I'm hoping is coming to an end, because we've had Crews versus the Hurt Locker for some time now, let's be honest. You know, and he's fought all of them. He's come up short against Lashley. It's game over now, right? So Lashley retained with the Hurt Lock. I think Michael Cole Wait, not Michael Cole. I think Samoa Joe called it the full Lashley, which is what they have been calling it. Awful name. And then I think it was Tom Phillips, maybe, corrected him and said it's the Hurt Lock. You know, like, that's the new name. Which, hey, maybe WWE are listening and hearing that full Lashley is a shocking name for the move. Why not just call it the full Nelson? It's a full Nelson, and that's fine. I mean... Okay, it makes it sound like a basic... But who uses a full Nelson not as a finisher, is my question. Like, we see Dragon Suplexes and full Nelson Slams. Well, we don't see that many full Nelson Slams anymore. We've got the Bubba Bomb, or the Bully Bomb, which is a full Nelson seated attack thing. But who uses the actual full Nelson as a submission? The last person I can remember was Chris Masters, and that was his finisher as well. So the full Nelson, in wrestling lore, is still an acceptable finisher for big, strong guys. So just call it the full Nelson, in my opinion. This match was alright. There's nothing amazing. I think this was a tier up from the possibility of Vega beating Asuka, but not by much. I think most people would have called Lashley beating Cruz here. And hopefully this ends the feud and Hurt Business can go on to focus just on Retribution. Because I'm enjoying them being like tweener at the moment. They're kind of full heel. But when they go up against Retribution, I guess they're technically the de facto faces there. I don't know. I'm looking forward to seeing how that plays out. I'm not defending Retribution's stupid names, stupid outfits, stupid storyline. Now we've been signed for some reason, but we still want to destroy it. It's just convoluted and stupid. But on the flip side, and we're going to destroy WWE now by having wrestling matches. No, carry on throwing Molotovs and stuff. That's how you destroy a business. Like, come on. But the Twitter game is A grade, by the way. Their Twitter game is just phenomenal at the moment. And secondly, I'm willing to give this feud against the Hurt Locker a go because MVP has been turning everything he touches to gold this year. Absolutely everything. Lashley was kind of floundering a bit. Shelton Benjamin was nowhere. Cedric Alexander was not even on TV. MVP wasn't doing much, and then he brings them all together and bam, great stuff. He elevated Cruz through his feud with him as well. Ricochet is getting regular TV time instead of being relegated to main event, although I think as well as being relegated to main event, bizarrely. But, MVP is turning everything to gold, so if anyone can save Retribution at the moment, I think it's the Hurt Business. I think this feud could save that story, if anything can, at this point. Next match. The Street Profits defending their Raw Tag Team Championships against Andrade and Angel Garza. Andrade and Garza at some point earlier in the show, it might have even been on the kickoff, cut a promo about being better off without Zelina Vega. She was always blaming Garza for the team's issues, but really she was the problem. This was the match for them to win in this feud, if it was going to be ever. This feud has gone on forever. I hope it's over. In fact, it's for the wrong reason. I wouldn't wish this on anyone. Unfortunately, I believe Angel Garza picked up an injury in the match. It's suspected to be either a hip injury or maybe even a quad tear, which is big time injury for a wrestler. Months and months out. So that's unfortunate. But the silver lining to that cloud is at least this feud's over because they've been fighting for months now. And, it's kind of getting old. But, Garza and Andrade showed good teamwork. The finish. Let's talk about the finish to this match. I don't know what happened here. Dawkins hit Andrade with like a big spinebuster thing that I think the commentary team gave a special name to, so I guess that's his finisher. But I didn't clock the name. I didn't remember the name for this review. Apologies. And then Andrade kicked out, but the referee counted 3. And the fake fans in the background, the fan piped in fans, counted to 3. So that was obviously the planned finish, right? Because otherwise, someone in production played the wrong clip at the exact same time as the referee counted the wrong count. I find that hard to believe. I find it more likely that Andrade kicked out when he wasn't supposed to. He forgot that was the finish, just split second, made the wrong decision, kicked out, and then thought, oops. Either that, or it was a deliberate mess up, and that's the way they were going to keep the story going. But then Angel Garza's been injured, so now they're probably just going to drop it and pretend it never happened. I don't know. Again, not seen Raw, so they may have addressed this on Raw, but at the time of finishing the pay-per-view, this was a bit of a what just happened? Who messed up? My money is on Andrade messed up, or it was a deliberate mess up. It was supposed to go down like that. I didn't notice in any of the other matches. We got a couple of submissions before this, and then we've had a lot. So we hadn't had a pinfall at this point until this match. We didn't get a pinfall in the next match. The next match was an ambulance match. We didn't get a pinfall. This was the only pinfall all night. Was the pre-show was a pinfall. I didn't notice in that match if there was a piped-in crowd chanting along with the 1, 2, 3. That's interesting. Only one match finished with a pinfall tonight. Not tonight. It's not. It's not even last night. Interesting that I've just noticed that. But yeah, it was either a planned screwy finish to keep the story going again, or Andrade messed up, in my opinion. Up next, we had a Drew Gulak interview where he was talking about always being on his toes and always ready and always alert and, he's looking around. And then R-Truth hit him with his prospecting pan and pinned him. So, not that alert. And R-Truth's the 24/7 champion again. So far, we've only had 2 title changes and they've both been the 24/7 title. But just because every title's on the line doesn't mean they have to change hands, I suppose. And technically, the IC title changed hands, I know. Next, we had Bayley come out, talk about how Nikki Cross couldn't compete. So, Nikki Cross, Shayna Baszler, and Nia Jax were supposedly reported as being off the show. It was announced on the kickoff show they weren't medically cleared, which to me is about as close to honest about something being COVID as WWE are going to get. No nonsense explanation, no little... this person was found knocked out backstage, There was none of that. It was just not medically cleared, which is about as transparent as WWE are going to get with this stuff. So Bayley came out and, cut a fairly good heel promo about, oh no, what a shame. Shame I have to win this by forfeit instead of just beating her again. It was good fun. But then she offered an open challenge and then said, nope, no one, okay, what a shame. Ref, get in here and declare me the winner then. And then Asuka's music hits. And Asuka comes out and challenges Bayley, which, per Bayley's rules, as the one setting the open challenge had closed. But apparently, she didn't even try and contest that part of it, which was the bit that bothered me, not the part the match went ahead. Just Bayley should have been saying, no, I closed the door, you don't get a shot. But she didn't, whatever. So Asuka actually beats Bayley by disqualification, so no title change. Bayley hit Asuka with a chair, obviously getting desperate and wanting to retain the title. And this is another reason why it would have been better to keep Asuka and Vega on the pre-show, on the kickoff show, because it would have given Asuka a little bit longer to recover and seem like more of a legitimate threat. Like, there was only 2 matches in between Asuka's 2 matches. It makes Bayley look a little weak that she was struggling so much with Asuka, I guess, but whatever. Asuka's kind of so far up there, that you don't look bad for struggling with Asuka, really, but she wasn't fresh, and Bayley did go to work on the arm that Zelina Vega had been working in their match, so that was good continuity. But then after Bayley hit Asuka with a chair and got disqualified, Sasha hit Bayley with a chair, which, okay, she's still wearing the neck brace and what have you, but I still think it's too soon. I just think we just shouldn't have seen Sasha. I just take her off TV and leave her off TV until January, and then either have her come back and announce for the Royal Rumble, declare for the Royal Rumble and then win it, or have her come back as a surprise and win it. That's the 2 ways you go with Sasha, in my opinion. Neither of which involve her showing up before January, in my opinion. Why is she still running around trying to attack Bayley when she's injured? I get it. She's angry at Bayley, but how's she allowed in the building? How are they not like saying to her, go home, recover? No, you are banned from the building. Recuperate. Like they seem to do with everyone else who gets injured. They don't just all show up, do they? So yeah, it's too soon in my opinion. I'm sort of losing hope they're going to do the right thing and stretch this to WrestleMania. I really hope they do, but that hope's flickering. It's getting ready to switch off, and I hope that'll last. I'll skip ahead a little bit here, but after the ambulance match, we had a Hell in a Cell advert, which featured Sasha Banks a couple of times, a couple of clips. I think they're just going to do Bayley versus Sasha in Hell in a Cell. And as much as it deserves to be a Hell in a Cell match, I get that. It's a good feud for the Hell in a Cell match. No, I don't want to see it that soon. I want to see it main event WrestleMania. And yeah, they can come back round to it, but it won't be the same story. It won't be as special. If they're both active for that entire time, they can't possibly keep them feuding until WrestleMania. Part of the feud is going to have to be time off for Sasha. Like, that's part of what's needed, in my opinion, to get this to WrestleMania. Anyway, so next match is the ambulance match, or was the ambulance match, for the WWE Championship. Drew McIntyre defending against Randy Orton. Drew won. He claymored Orton, he put him in the ambulance, he went to shut the doors, then he was like, opened the doors, dragged Orton out a bit, and Punk kicked him, and then shut the doors. So, good finish. The story of this match, though, and I've seen someone moaning about this on Facebook, and I'm sure other people are doing this on social media all over the place, complaining about how Drew needed all this help to win. Drew's already beat Orton clean, so it doesn't do Drew any harm here. The story of this match, I thought, was great. It was really entertaining. The ghosts of Orton's past. So, Early in the match, Orton dropped Drew with the hanging DDT off the, through the middle rope. And then backed up to do the punt kick, and Big Show grabbed his leg, dragged him out, and chokeslammed him through the announce table. Great stuff. Like, there's one of Orton's ghosts, Beardless Big Show, by the way. Orton kicked the beard off Big Show, apparently. He had a beard last time we saw him, right? I remember Big Show with the massive beard, but maybe he'd already shaved it. I don't fully recall. He had the face mask on, though, and then when he pulled it down, to me, he looked weird without a beard. So I feel like it's the first time we've seen his chin for a bit. So, yeah, that was the first one. Then they started fighting backstage. Orton crawled through the curtain to backstage, and then managed to throw Drew McIntyre into a wall. And then as he's recovering near catering, Christian shows up and just starts beating him and slides him along the catering table and what have you, and then backs off. So there's ghost number 2, because he also punt and kicked Christian in the head. Then they fight and they end up... Oh, Drew McIntyre, by the way, kicked a door off an ambulance with a Claymore kick, so that's how weak he looks. Although I am curious how tough that is, because you're putting a lot of strain that's not meant to be put on a hinge there. And at Drew McIntyre's weight, I feel like that's a reasonable thing that he could legitimately do. It was probably a gimmicked hinge, but I feel like he could have just done it legit as well. Anyway, he then got slammed back first into the windshield and had cuts all over his back, so he's up on the roof of the ambulance. Orton follows him. They're going a bit back and forth. Orton brutally knocks Drew off the top of the ambulance, when in reality Drew was hanging by his fingers. He was probably stood on the floor already. Like, ambulances aren't that tall. They're tall, but they're not that tall. Like, Drew's 6'6" or something and had his arm fully outstretched upwards. That's 8+ foot up in the air, 9 foot up in the air. There's no way Drew couldn't reach that. So anyway, yeah, so he fell off, and then while the camera's just on Orton, you're like, this is a suspiciously long amount of time. Then Orton turns around and eats the sweet chin music, and then Shawn just pushes Randy, who's staggering, off the ambulance. So there's ghost number 3, Shawn Michaels. And then that pretty much leads into the finish. Drew wins with the punt kick, as we discussed already. And then he wants to watch the ambulance drive out, and it's Ric Flair driving the ambulance. So there's your 4th and final ghost, not including Edge, who clearly just isn't ready to come back yet. Like, that was a legit injury, as opposed to the others all being storyline injuries. So yeah, it was Flair driving the ambulance away, and the ghosts of Randy Orton's past all caught up with him. So I assume, and I, again, haven't seen Raw, but I assume they're going to keep Randy Orton off screen for a bit, and then him and Edge can come back at fairly similar times to resume their feud, because rumour has it they wanted to take that feud back into WrestleMania next year, do a full year plus feud, which I'm fine with. I think that'll be fun. So yeah, they're probably going to keep Orton off TV. That said, he probably showed up on Raw last night and I just haven't heard. The one thing I have heard, by the way, seeing as I might have piqued your interest with that, I might not, who knows, was that Bobby Roode accepted Drew McIntyre's open challenge. Now, the one thing I don't know was that match last night? Was it just a challenge, accept, match, or is that the Hell in a Cell match? I didn't read that far into it. I just saw someone share a thing that Bobby Roode accepted Drew's open challenge. That's all I know. So, yeah, let me know in the comments. I'm curious. I will watch Raw, but I usually watch it later in the week. It's usually Thursday by the time I manage to watch Raw at the earliest. So yeah, feel free to let me know. Not worried about spoilers, don't worry. If you are worried about spoilers, don't read the comments, because people might be telling me. Yeah, then it was the Hell in a Cell advert, which I've already said. It was cleverly cut, by the way. I will give them credit here. It featured a lot of people that haven't been in Hell in a Cell, all looking up. And it's like, they were looking up at something else. They were looking up at Money in the Bank hanging over the ring, or an Elimination Chamber. But they made it seem like they were all looking up at Hell in a Cell and, and making a big deal out of the cell. My only wish for this year's Hell in a Cell at this moment, I've got 2 wishes. One, we don't get Bayley and Sasha. But the second one, which hopefully is more likely to come through, is no janky finishes. It's Hell in a Cell. There's not supposed to be a way of finishing the match except pin or submission. That's it. Like, no double DQ, no contests, none of that. Just brutal match, pin. That's all I want. That's all I want. Okay. Main event time. This was phenomenal. This was great. This was slow paced. It was methodical. It was It wasn't work rate heavy. There wasn't huge spots all over the place. I'm sure loads of people hated this. This was great old school wrestling. This was Roman Reigns being a fantastic heel. I'm going to say phenomenal again, but I don't like to repeat words like that. But that's the sort of level of word I want. Just terrific. He beat Jey Uso. This was right up there with the Asuka Vega match for least likely for a title change to happen. But yeah, Roman Reigns beat Jey Uso. He beat him by stoppage because Jimmy Uso had to come down to the ring and throw a towel in the end because Reigns wasn't for beating Uso. He wanted him to declare him the chief, and Jey Uso had too much pride, and so Reigns beat him to a pulp. I love this Reigns. This is what we've needed for Roman Reigns for so long. He seems like an uber star at the moment. He seems like the biggest star on the show. Absolutely comes across like that. He's a great wrestler. I don't care what people say. His stuff is clean. It's what's the word I'm after? It's crisp. That's the word I'm after. It's crisp. It's thought out. It's got great psychology behind it. Roman Reigns is great. His booking used to be awful. Now his booking's good, and he's being allowed to have a bit more of a match because as a heel you kind of have to carry the match instead of just sort of bouncing back with a Superman punch and a spear. And it's really good. The story was great. Jey Uso got some offense in, and almost won the title a couple of times. Paul Heyman looked like he'd seen a ghost, I think was the quote on commentary, and he really did when the camera cut to him. There was just enough offense to not really bury Jey Uso, but there wasn't enough to make him look like he was on the same level as Roman Reigns, which was the point, was to put Roman Reigns over. I really love this. Great spot that I've never seen before. Roman Reigns kicked out and hit a low blow, and I'm still not sure if it was accidental or on purpose, because Roman Reigns got a big grin on his face a little bit after it, but that could have been a, that was lucky, or that could have been a, got him. I don't know how you could plan for him to happen to pin you that way. But yeah, it was off the big splash, the closest to the match ending that it got in Jey Uso's favour. And then Reigns kicked out, and as he rolled the shoulder, his bicep hit Jey Uso between the legs, and then followed it up with a spear, and then the match got brutal. But yeah, that spot, really creative, really clever. That was what this show was, creative and clever. The Ghost of Orton's past story was creative and clever. I liked that, everyone getting even with him over the course of the match. The finish to Zelina Vega and Asuka was quite creative and clever. I'm okay with that. Not the rest of the match I didn't like, but that was quite good. The Intercontinental title match was genius, absolute genius, and this was creative and clever as well. Oh, by the way, Jey Uso with an amazing spear counter earlier in the match than the low blow thing. I don't know how they timed that so well. I mean, I know Roman probably slowed it down a little bit, the run-in, but it still looked really clean, really, really good. Jey basically jumped up, but then sort of did a leapfrog schoolboy to Roman Reigns, who was doing a spear. It was really good, like really good counter to the spear. One of the best ones I've seen, like ever. A really, really clever spear counter. It wasn't enough though. So the end of the match, we had the low blow kick out, then the spear, then all match, Roman Reigns has been giving Charles Robinson grief over trying to referee the match. It was great. Just such good character work, honestly. Go back and watch this match, even if you don't watch the whole show. Watch the whole show. The whole show was worth watching. But watch this match for the character work between Roman Reigns and Charles Robinson as well. Roman Reigns being like, no, I'm bigger than WWE. You will listen to me. He said at one point, I'll knock you into next week and you won't have a job at the end of it, or something like that. And just cocky heel Roman Reigns is so good. But, yeah, so then Charles Robinson gets down to count, and Roman Reigns is like, oh, you ready, are you? I'm not ready. I want him to tell me I'm the chief. So he tries to get Jey Uso to say it. He refuses, so Roman Reigns fires him off the ropes and hits a rebound spear, and again tries to get him to say it, and then just starts ground and pounding him. And this brings out Jimmy Uso. He wants to throw in the towel. Jey Uso begs him not to. This bit may have gone on a little bit long. I get they were trying to build the drama, but could have cut like a good minute off this, and it would still have been just as dramatic in my opinion. Reigns eventually drags Jey into the middle of the ring away from Jimmy because they're kind of holding hands, like Jimmy's like, let me throw the towel in, and Jey's like begging him not to, and then Roman Reigns just starts beating on Jey, and then Jimmy throws the towel at him and he just carries on. Referee rings the bell. Jimmy's like, get him off him, ref, and ref's like, I can't do anything, look at him, he's massive. So Jimmy dives onto Jey and sort of puts himself between them. And then says, "What's wrong with you? We're family. You're the chief. Fine. Is that what you want? You know, da da da." And then Roman Reigns tells Paul Heyman to go and get the sort of thing that Jey Uso had. I don't want to try and give it the right name because I don't know what it is. I don't want to insult anyone by trying to give it the right name, but it's like a Samoan traditional sort of tribal looking wreath thing made of flowers around that Jey Uso had around his neck to come out, obviously playing on the fact that they're the Samoan dynasty and that's what the whole story has been. And Roman's like, I want that, so Heyman goes and gets it and puts it over Roman's head like a medal, like ceremony kind of thing, and then Reigns stares down the Usos to finish the show, and it was really good. WWE have been on fire with pay-per-views recently, in my opinion. SmackDown has been a great show. WWE pay-per-views have been a great show. Raw's not been so great. Raw's been lagging behind, in my opinion. But the Hurt Business are good, so, you know, they've got some good stuff. And Asuka's the women's champion, so can't complain about that. Drew and Orton's been fun, but overall the show's been a bit of a struggle to get through. But SmackDown's been amazing. The pay-per-views have been great. So, yeah. Let me know in the comments what you think of WWE at the moment and this show and anything I've said that you agree with, disagree with, all that good stuff. It'd be greatly appreciated. Let's get a conversation going. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new here and you want to see more of this sort of stuff from me. There's a lot of shows to do predictions and reviews for in the upcoming month. We've got a takeover coming up pretty soon, next weekend. What else have I got? Let me have a look through my schedule very quickly. Oh, I'm going to do one for the finals of G1. I wanted to do one for all of G1, but time didn't permit, so I'm going to do one before the final show of the G1 Climax, definitely. We're going to do Bound for Glory, because I've been kind of keeping up with Impact recently, but not really been talking about it much on the channel, so I'm going to do Bound for Glory. And then there's Hell in a Cell. Bound for Glory and Hell in a Cell are on the same weekend, so that's going to be a busy weekend for those sort of things. So definitely subscribe if you want to see more of this. Share with your friends if you think they would enjoy. Leave a like. It'd greatly help me out. I'd greatly appreciate it. And also, check the description for my other channels. eBay's Plays Games has wrestling stuff. eBay's Sims Games has wrestling stuff. Pokebase and not so much, but you might be like me and like both. Check out whatever interests you down there in the description, and subscribe to whichever channels you fancy the content of. Also, my social media is down there. Give me a follow, give me a like, whatever the correct word is for whichever one you use. And also my Patreon. If you'd like to support me, it's just $1 per calendar month, and that would be greatly appreciated. Any and all support, of course, appreciated, financial or otherwise. But for now, all I have left to say is thank you very much for watching. As always, I've been Abeza, you've been amazing, and I will see you next time.